This has been an interesting year. Oh, I'm not just speaking for myself. Last year, during an otherwise complete snooze fest of a Pokémon Presents presentation, and I'm not just referring to the Pokémon Sleep section, they casually dropped this innocuous teaser trailer for a new Pokémon Legends game, and suddenly, things got interesting. The release date was for next year, meaning it was still in development. It was a follow-up to a highly successful outlier of a game that had somehow managed to escape the bad reputation the rest of the series had during the Switch era. It showed a lot of interesting imagery, raised a lot of questions, Pokemon fans were getting excited, and then nothing. Just nothing. The franchise went radio silent for a whole year. Okay, maybe I am also speaking for myself. Funny how life imitates art. Why did things happen that way? No, I mean, well, for me, that is, because I am speaking for myself, apparently. Well, that's kind of a long story, but, well, for the last year, I haven't exactly been living my life as a Pokemon mega fan. Last year might have been the most important year for me in relation to this franchise since I came back to it, because, for the very first time, I stepped into new ground. After nearly a decade and a half of me owning a copy of Pokemon Black version, I finally sat down and played through the whole thing, and my mind was blown at just how good it was. I had no childhood nostalgia for this one like I did with Generations 1 through 4. This was the release that killed my interest in the franchise, the one people complained about online back then, and yet, here I was. This game not only lived up to those memories of the older games, it exceeded all expectations and turned out to be one of the greatest Pokemon games I have ever played. I did the unthinkable and replayed the game like 3 times back to back because I enjoyed it so much, which, for the record, is something I had never done with any other game in this series. It easily held up for me alongside the greats, and I was genuinely mad at myself I took this long to try it out, because I had no idea just how badly I missed out. I did get fatigued from Pokemon for a while after getting a big filling of Black version. So after taking a month or 2 away from the series, I finally did what I kept saying I'd do and gave Legends Arceus the time of day. I did expect to enjoy this one, after all, as a lifelong Sinnoh fanboy, this game had to have some stuff I liked. But what I didn't expect was to develop a full-on addiction. I had a great time my first time through, but I had to make sure this wasn't another Scarlet situation, where I had a lot of fun and mistakenly thought a bad game was good. Nope. Legends Arceus was actually just a good game. In a way, it was kind of vindicating for me because, to put it lightly, Scarlet and Violet let me down. Bad. I had a great time with them around launch, proclaimed them to be one of my favorite games in the whole series, in what will easily be the most embarrassing mistake I've made in my whole life. And then, after that, every time I revisited them, they just got worse and worse. And guess what? I still haven't finished the second half of the DLC. It's been a whole year and I still haven't touched the Indigo Disc. That says it all. Meanwhile, Legends Arceus actually delivered for me. I kept going back to it over and over, and it just kept being good and enjoyable. Is it perfect? Oh, no way. It still is very much rough around the edges, but unlike Gen 9, at least for me, buried under those rough edges is an incredibly inspired, well thought out, and provocative experience the likes of which the series has almost never seen. It was, to me, everything I wanted Scarlet and Violet to be. Unlike Scarlet, I know I'll never be ashamed to say Legends Arceus is actually one of my favorite games in the series. Oh, it's got plenty of flaws too, sure, but unlike Gen 9, the core game design and artistic vision still holds up, even under my intense and repeated scrutiny as I replayed it over and over again. So, of course, I was excited for this year's Pokémon Presents. I knew that this year, even if the rest of the presentation was underwhelming filler, at the very least, they'd finally show us some actual gameplay of the new Legends ZA. They're still calling it that. I was beyond hype for this. And sure enough, I was right. We actually got new info and gameplay. Don't worry, we'll get to that soon. What happened after the presents, though, was the real treat. I had no idea that in spite of the Switch 2 presser they had in the wings, there would be yet another separate Nintendo Direct during the wait. And this is where they showed off even more Legends ZA, which I really needed. While some stuff in the Pokemon Day material was interesting, I still hadn't seen enough of the game to really form a first impression on it. Sure, it's fun to deride and mock the latest mainline Pokemon game after Scarlet and Violet set a precedent for releasing half-baked products. Oh, you thought I was done with the bread analogy? But this isn't supposed to be Generation 10. Oh no, just like Legends Arceus, this is a mainline game, canon to the rest of the series, but this is not supposed to be a traditional Pokemon game, so it's way harder to judge. Especially because Game Freak proved to me with Legends Arceus that they still know how to make a fun and engaging premise for a Pokemon game and execute on it. The reason why the first generation of Pokemon even took off at all. I needed more material to form an opinion that wasn't just baseless speculation. But I knew better than to just speak out right after the first Direct because I knew the Switch 2 Direct was right behind it. And while the Switch 2 Direct did have a lot of interesting stuff in there, and almost nothing Pokemon related, the important thing happened, which was they finally revealed the fate of ZA as a Switch 2 game. Something I was curious about for a long time. And they showed a little bit of how that will look. So, welcome all. This is the absolute state of Pokemon in 2025! For better or for worse. Let's get the most boring subject out of the way first. Various mobile apps. Yes, they still exist. There's Cafe Mix, there's Masters EX, there's TCG Pocket, and there's Sleep. And you know what? Hopefully this comes as high praise from someone who just can't get into these bite-sized distraction-type apps. They've been getting better over the years. Sleep was a really cool and creative idea when I tried it out for about a week, and I was really impressed by the level of polish on the app and the charming art style. A sleep tracking app that doubles as a Pokemon collection game? I would have never thought that could work. And TCG Pocket. Last year I did say I had high hopes for it. Well, unfortunately it wasn't what I was looking for. What I wanted was a spiritual successor to the TCG game on Game Boy. But what I got instead was a gacha game with cards instead of characters, with the actual card game being a simplified version. And unlike what I expected, the cards in TCG Pocket were not one-to-one digital versions of the cards and booster packs that exist in the real world. TCG Pocket was too much of its own thing for me to get into it, and I only spent a total of about 4 hours checking it out and seeing what its basic modes were, before deleting it to keep more of my free time free. But I will admit, TCG Pocket was once again a really well put together and polished app. Just like Sleep, I think it has a niche to fill. Creatures Inc. proved they can make something good and polished, and I can easily see a world where TCG Pocket expands and gets closer to what I wanted it to be. Cafe Remix and Masters EX still exist. Alongside Sleep and TCG Pocket, they still get regular updates. I'll say it once to make it clear, mobile freemium games are not my thing. They never were. But this is the plot twist. I'm glad they still exist. Mainly because for me, a fan of this franchise, it's cool to see Pokemon content aimed at a much more casual audience that keeps bringing back and referencing pretty deep and specific stuff from the entire series. You know what, let's just include the regular trading card game in this discussion right now because it is the original loot box opening collection game. Let me use the most recent example. You know Blue? He's like the most famous rival character in all of Pokemon. Well, despite it being right there in the games, it's easy to forget that this guy has a sister. Daisy Oak, a character who is directly related to both the region's professor and the main rival character, is surprisingly irrelevant to the entire series as a whole. How irrelevant? Well, up until now, the most we saw of her was a couple in-game appearances, and despite being, related to these two, we only had this in-game sprite seen in Fire Red and Leaf Green's Fame Checker, and suddenly, there you have it. An actual, honest-to-goodness piece of official art for this surprisingly elusive character. The next trailer started, and hearing that theme song start alongside imagery of Primal Kyogre and Groudon really did something for me. Wait, what is this? A remake of Pokemon Pinball, Ruby and Sapphire? Oh, I wish. No, this is Pokemon Masters EX again. But the cool thing is that May, Brendan, and Steven are still getting some love and new looks somewhere in the series. I don't care about the game itself, but like I said, keeping old characters like this relevant is what I like about this thing existing. But even the trailers themselves sometimes appeal directly to me, with specific deep references that make me very happy to see in the current year. In the same presents, during the Pokémon Sleep trailer, the one that introduced content featuring both Darkrai and Cresselia, on the surface just looked like an ordinary trailer. But the musical score itself was an extremely cool reference to extremely obscure content in Pearl, Diamond, and Platinum. It uses music cues from both the Cresselia encounter and, more impressively, the special Darkrai event only accessible for a limited time in Platinum, via a mystery gift download, and more recently, and I completely missed out on this unfortunately, for a limited time in the Gen 4 remakes. Yeah, I'm not into Pokemon Sleep, but these kind of references are really cool to me. The next one is kind of a crossover between mobile devices and consoles, but I'll just talk about it now to get it out of the way. Speaking of musical pandering specifically to me, another game I could care less about, Pokémon Unite, is still getting content updates. I don't care. I mean, it has its fans, sure, but at the end of the day, it's just a free-to-play MOBA game with microtransactions and a Pokémon skin. But again, I enjoyed the trailer because of the music. It's really good, and its composition kind of reminds me of what they did in Legends Arceus. It isn't just a full remake of the legendary trio theme from Johto, rather it seems to kind of focus in and riff on this one bit here. If this track is actually used in-game, then that means it'll be official game music, so that's really cool, I guess. Okay, now for the big one. I just spoke of minor pieces of the Pokémon franchise, but despite its status as a mobile app, one can't deny the impact this one had on the franchise. I am, of course, talking about Pokémon Go. For years, it's been apparent that nobody in a position to work on it has cared at all about Pokémon Go as a game. But, you know, I do have some actual life memories related to it. You can't stagnate a game like this that's designed to be a live service type of game, especially where the cool gimmick is what got it popular when in reality there is hardly an actual game to be played. Don't let the inclusion at the World Championships fool you. Anyone who's played and spent any time trying to climb the PvP ladder in the game will agree with me that the PvP mode is a joke. Maybe that's why I was dumb enough to excuse the horrendously broken Scarlet and Violet mechanics like Azumarill's huge power before they were patched. Pokemon Go conditioned me to be okay with a game functionally broken. Anyways, Pokemon Go was never actually good as a game. It was, however, an excellent activity, and like I said, I have many, many warm memories associated with it. I have long come to accept that Pokemon Go has been dying a slow, agonizing death, and that I would never return to it. That was the best case scenario. Niantic just lets the game stagnate and increase the prices of paid elements until the game dies, and my memories get left alone and Pokemon Go retains its positive, nostalgic legacy. Well, too bad that didn't happen. I get why they didn't mention this during the Pokémon Presents, because I fail to see any case where this could be interpreted as good news. But recently Niantic has agreed to sell off a bunch of its games to another company. And that company is called Scopely. What is Scopely? Oh, nothing. Just the assholes who own and operate licensed mobile microtransaction shovelware hell like some Marvel game and some Monopoly game. Ironically also with the word Go grafted onto the end of it. Oh gee, I wonder where they got that idea. I find it so ironic how far we've come. Monopoly, the original board game, was a game you played with fake paper money. The only money you spent was to buy the game itself. And have people lost the plot this badly? The whole point of Monopoly, the thematic content of Monopoly, is that you play as the villain. You get lucky. You buy the right stuff at the right time. You control the market on housing, transportation, utilities, then evict your residents to start your own hotel franchise. You create a literal nightmare world that makes the alternate future Hill Valley and Back to the Future Part 2 look nice in comparison. And for the other players on the board, it is literally more financially responsible to go to jail than exist anywhere else on the board. It's fun, it's funny, it pisses people off and ends friendships. There's a reason why Monopoly has lasted throughout the ages to become a board game staple. Heck, there's even Pokémon editions of that very game. Something you should spend your time with rather than anything Scopely owns or operates.